Hi, Dave Smith here. I've got myself a slightly different setup and I'll probably kind of dot between this one and the previous one and outdoor shots and all manner of things. But I've just made a video about the sound issues that I've been having and that kind of feeds into some things that I want to say in this video and about where we are heading with the channel. This would be a bit of a rambly video. I think there's quite a lot for me to say here, so it might turn out to be split into two. We'll see how it goes. So the lavalier mic actually brings me to my first point. I've been at this channel for maybe 6 years and I feel like I've put quite a lot of effort into it. I feel like there's a lot of detailed useful stuff there, and I'm thinking particularly of things like the digital negatives series I did, which was pretty in-depth. It's had a lot of views. I've answered lots of questions in relation to that, and just on a side note, if you do have questions, very happy to try and answer them as best as I can. But I feel like I've done quite a lot in that time, and I don't earn anything off this channel, unlike a lot of channels. You'll notice my videos are not monetized. They don't have adverts interrupting them, and that's not because I'm averse to earning money. It's because YouTube changed its algorithms and my channel doesn't have enough watch hours in the last year, in the previous 12 months, for it to be monetized, and that's been like that for several years now. But I've kept going because I quite like to get the feedback from you guys. I like to feel that the information I'm giving is of use to somebody and all that. But the whole thing about the microphones has brought everything into sharp focus, pardon the pun. And the thing is that these things are not cheap to produce. You know, the equipment is expensive, and I do want to upgrade all of the equipment because I want to improve the experience that you get while watching these things, and that takes money. So the way I've decided to deal with that is that I'm going to open a Patreon page, and that's really what I want to talk about in this video. Just give you some insight into what's going to be on that page. So my YouTube is going to change slightly. What I think of as the ad hoc, where something happens and I think, oh, that might be interesting to somebody, and I've got this camera out for that reason. I love this camera. This is the Sony a6000. Now, my Sony a6000 has been full spectrum converted, and what that means is that the high pass filters have been removed. So typically on a digital camera, that you will have a filter that will filter out the UV, because that has a significant effect on the image that the sensor records. It also filters the infrared. So the filter, it's actually a bandpass filter. It's passing the wavelengths that are visible. So the 400 to 700 nanometers are allowed to pass, but lower than that get blocked, higher than that get blocked, so the UV and the infrared doesn't affect your image. But if you have that filter removed, then what you can do is dial in the wavelengths that you want to pass, and I use this for infrared. But you'll see this is encased in a small rig case. Really, I don't quite know what they call that. And the reason I did that was this camera is a tiny camera. It's really small. And when I put my QR plate on it and clamped it onto a tripod, the thing wobbled like a good one. Just the slightest touch, a breeze would cause it to wobble, and I thought, well, that's not very good. So I put it in this small rig case, and that solved the problem for me. Now, when I had that problem and I was online trying to find resolutions to it, there was no information. So I did a video about it, and that did indeed help some people, and they contacted me back about it. And that's really what I mean by these ad hoc things. The Fuji X-T3 battery issues video, I'm not quite sure whether that's been released yet, but it's certainly in the pipeline to come out. If not this week, then next week. That was just, I'd got one of these power banks. I'd seen that Fuji had done a firmware upgrade that meant that you could use power banks provided they had power delivery. But then when I tried to use it, it didn't work, and it turned out that it didn't work because I have the battery grip, and that seems to prevent the input from the battery bank working. So I sort of worked all that out, and I had some other issues, so I thought, well, this might be of interest to some people. I'll put a video up. And again, it's because when I tried to research online to find out what was happening, there was no information. You get kind of shuffled off into a little kind of sideline that's not quite what you want. And that's what I mean by these ad hoc videos that I think people will be interested in. But in addition to those, which are essentially mostly the videos I've been doing all along, there have been some videos which have been a series that are much more in depth, and the digital negatives is one, the getting ready for wet plate is another, where I develop the ideas over a period of time. And so what I'm thinking is that the public YouTube will continue in that way. It will continue in the ad hoc videos of stuff that I think might be of interest to people. There's sort of behind the scenes kind of shoots and all manner of sort of eclectic things. And I'll say a bit more about that presently, because my now that I've settled back into England, I bought a house, I'm not intending to travel, certainly in the near future, and probably not in the mid-term future either, given the state of COVID. So now that I'm settled, I'm sort of getting back to my previous photography setup, and I'll say something about that. So the way it's going to work then is that the Patreon will be where the in-depth videos go, and I'm going to think of those in terms of online workshops. Now, I've tried to keep that as very affordable. I don't want people to be put off because they have to pay something to see those depths of videos, but it will help me to keep this channel running, and to more particularly to be able to advance and improve and increase the production values that I'm able to offer. Okay, so let me say a little bit about, I've got myself some notes so that I don't forget the things that I didn't forget when I made these notes. Doesn't mean that there aren't other things, but I've got some notes. So I'm going to say a little about what's available. Now, setting up a Patreon isn't really just about bringing in some funds to keep things going, to offset my costs and my time in making these things, and sort of giving people the benefit of my 30 years plus of experience and research and practice. It's also about a community. I think if people get involved with the Patreon, we can use that as an opportunity to establish a community, and that I'd really like that. So somehow I'm going to set up a private community group. I haven't decided how to do that yet. I was going to do it with Facebook, but when I was previously on Facebook, and then I cancelled it because I don't like Facebook. But then I thought about this, and I thought, well, maybe Facebook is the best way to do that. So I tried to go back on Facebook, but with a different email address. And they seemed to think that I was setting up a fake account, and they banned me. And I don't know if anybody's ever experienced this, but when Facebook does ban you, there's literally no comeback, and you get a message that says click here if you want to have this decision reviewed. So I did, and they came back and said, right, we've reviewed it and we're sticking with our decision, and there'll be no further communication. Now, I was pretty appalled by that. When I went to the forums, you find people who've been on Facebook for 10 years, they run their business through it, all their contacts are there, and then suddenly gone. So I decided not to bother with Facebook, but somehow I'm going to set up this private community group where we can come together and we can share ideas and be a group of like-minded people. So that's partly what I want. Also, I want to set up a monthly newsletter, and I want that to be not just about me and what I'm doing. I would like the community to be involved with that and to contribute to that as well. So there's that aspect of Patreon. But I've then looked at all of the sort of things that I do photographically and thought, well, what might people be interested in? And again, when you look on Patreon, many people sort of start off with a very basic level, and then the sort of things involved in there get added to the next level down, and then there's something else, and that all gets shuffled down. I haven't done it that way because I think it might get quite a bit too expensive for people to come in. So what I've done, really, there's a little bit of that in what I've done, but largely what I've done is to create a menu. So you can look at these things and you say, oh, I'd really like that, but I'm not interested in that. But I might have that, and so you can pick and choose. And I hope that's going to be reasonably affordable for people. And I'll go through those in a moment. So prints is one thing that I'm going to offer. I don't have a massive back catalogue, maybe only a few thousand images. And I'm going to go through that, and I'm going to pick that out. I've just remembered something that I didn't remember when I made the notes. Let's hope I don't forget it along the way. And what I've done is to curate that quite carefully and pick out what I think are some really stunning images. And I'm offering those as prints for wall art, to decorate your home, to decorate your office, decorate your business, and those are available on a website. But I've picked those out, and I'm going to make sets of greetings cards, and you get one of these sets various times of the year on this particular tier. But I think one of the things that I'm most excited about is the wet plate. So I've got some tiers that offer original wet plate artwork. And remember, when you create wet plate images, they're one-off. You make the plate every time you want to make a shot. So when you take the shot, that's it. Now, sure, you can scan them and make a digital thing, but that's really never going to be a wet plate. So I'm offering people the opportunity to buy original wet plate artwork in all the sizes that I shoot in. I thought that because I have these massive cameras, I have 10 by 8, I have 12 by 20, I will be getting a 5 by 4 in the near future. And I think people are maybe very interested in having a go with large format and ultra large format, but it's very expensive to get into, so maybe an opportunity to come and shoot with me for a day might be of interest, and I'll say more about that as well. Of course, there's these in-depth video online workshops, and that's kind of an encapsulated thing of its own, because that leads out of this YouTube channel. And then just to talk a little about those, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 workshops in mind right now, and I will add to that. And these are going to be long-term things, so you will come along with me on the journey. One is large format. Now, what I've done, I picked myself up 2 texts which I'm going to use as the basis of the structure for this course. One is View Camera Technique by Strobel, which is pretty much the Bible for large format work, and the other is The Camera by Ansel Adams. Now, what these two things have in common is that the Strobel in particular focuses on large format photography, but not just. So this series will give you a thorough grounding in the art and the craft and the science of photography. It will, even if you're not interested in large format photography, it will help you to understand film photography, and it will help you to understand digital photography much better. And that's going to be very thorough. And I've been working, and one of the things I'm going to do this afternoon is to do some more work on that, to start to map out the episodes for that. But in my mind, it's starting to look like somewhere in the region of 25 to 30 episodes. It's going to be in real depth. Then I'm just in the process, I'm coming to the end of it now, but I've been in the process of setting up two businesses for photography. One is about selling prints, and I've set myself up a website for that, which I'll link in this video. The other is portraiture. I love portraiture, and I've shot portraiture for many years, but I never as a business, because A, I've never been settled for long enough, and B, that my day job always paid too well for me to make the transition, and because I'm alone, I've always lived alone. There's nobody to help pay the bills whilst I set up a business. But now I'm in a different situation, and I'm in a place where I can set up a business. So I've done a mammoth amount of work on that, and I thought it might be of interest to people out there to hear about what I've done in achieving that. And one of the big things for me was to set up a business without a business loan. So keeping it cost effective is going to be a key part of that series. Now, I haven't mapped that series yet, but I suspect, just from having worked through it myself, that that's probably going to be in the region of 15 to 20 episodes. I'm going to move the digital negatives into the Patreon page, because that seems like a place where they belong, and I may well revisit those when I come back to do my own printing. Having done the Getting Ready for Wet Plate series, the next stage is doing wet plate, and that series is going to come into the Patreon, because I think there's quite a lot of information there. Then I have two printing workshops in mind. I really enjoy carbon transfer printing. It's a very sculptural process, because you get this 3D effect because of the way that it works, and that's pretty stunning. And then the other is palladium printing. Platinum and or palladium printing are kind of lumped in together. I've concentrated on palladium printing because it's a little bit more forgiving than platinum and significantly less expensive, which isn't to say that palladium is cheap. It isn't. But I really love it. It gives you this long tonal scale and really beautiful images. So I thought that those printing techniques, which will cause me to come back to the digital negatives, and I might sort of revamp those at the same time. Sort of the thing that I remembered that I had forgotten when I made the notes is zines. I've been quite interested in zines for quite some time, I mean years. I just never got around to actually making one. Well, I'm going to make zines, and they will be an offering when I've started making them. They'll be an offering on the Patreon as well. That's unpublished at the moment because they're not ready, and similarly with the wet plate artwork, there is no wet plate artwork yet. So those tiers are unpublished, but as they become available, I'll publish those. So there are going to be zines, and I'll also do a series of workshop videos to go through that process. And then another idea that's in my mind is photogravure, which is literally just an idea at the moment. I really like the idea of, again, I like the sculptural nature of a gravure plate, because you basically etched into the copper, it creates a 3D-ness about it. So that will become a workshop series as well, but that's some way down the line. So that's the thrust of where I'm going. That's why I've set up a Patreon page. I think there's quite a lot of strands to it. I really hope that people from you guys are going to come across and get involved. I really hope that we get a community together. I'd really like that to be a vibrant community, and one day when COVID is less intrusive, maybe we'd set up an annual meeting for that group, which I think might be quite exciting as well. Lots and lots in the pipeline. So I hope that you feel that that's something that you want to come across and work with me on. Now, there's more to say about the Patreon, but I'm going to stop there, and then I'm going to make another shorter video that describes the Patreon tiers and what the costs are and all the rest of it. But I hope this is of some interest. I really hope to see you all there. It isn't quite launched yet. It's pretty close. So, thanks for watching. Bye for now.